Welcome back. Here's a quick recap. After some thought, Raon turned to Wrath and asked, "Then, will you make a bet with me?" Wrath, surprised, responded, "A bet?" With confidence, Raon explained, "If I can master Glacia in 6 months or not." Wrath hesitated. 6 months? Raon thought to himself. It seemed Wrath had lost every bet so far. Without missing a beat, Raon suddenly changed the terms. "Fine, then 5 months. Don't you think that's worth betting on?" Wrath considered it for a moment before finally replying, "All right, let's do it." Just then, a system notification appeared before Raon. "Wrath has accepted the bet." If you're new here or need a refresher, I highly recommend checking out the previous part before diving into this exciting chapter. Now that we're all caught up, before we start this new chapter, I want to give a huge thanks to David Stange for joining our family as a member. 2 members strong. Bring on the excitement, and let's dive into this new chapter. As Raon and Dorian stood together, Raon suddenly suggested, "Dorian, let's go back to the dorms now." Dorian's face lit up with excitement, and he replies with enthusiasm, "Okay." As Raon and Dorian started to leave, Yua suddenly called out, "Oh, a moment, please. There's something I have to give you before you go." Surprised, both Raon and Dorian turned, exchanging glances before looking back at Yua. Yua held up a bag of cookies before continuing, "You really seem to enjoy the pineapple pizza. So, I made some pineapple cookies with the remaining pineapple. Would you like some?" Wrath's face lit up with joy and surprise as he exclaimed, "Oh, well done, pineapple girl." As Raon accepted the cookies from Yua, he said with gratitude, "Thanks, Yua." Yua's face broke into a warm smile as she replied, "I hope you like it." Yua's voice was filled with warmth and genuine enthusiasm as she said, "Please stop by if you ever want more." Her smile was inviting, and her words conveyed a sense of hospitality, making Dorian and Raon feel welcome to visit her again anytime. As Raon and Dorian walked away, they simultaneously raised their hands in a friendly gesture and chimed in unison, "See you." Yua mirrored their action, raising her hand in a gentle wave, and smiled as she bid them farewell. Meanwhile, the dense foliage of the forest surrounding Haben Castle swallowed the sound of footsteps, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Panic-stricken cries echoed through the forest as patrol troops sprinted for their lives, their torches casting wild shadows on the trees. The sound of rustling leaves and snapping twigs filled the air as they desperately fled from an unseen terror. As they sprinted forward, urgency flooded the soldier's mind. "This is an emergency. I must return as quickly as possible and report to Commander Milland," he thought, determination fueling his every step. "There are ice trolls gathering in the area." His heart racing, he glanced over his shoulder, half expecting to see the fearsome creatures closing in. As the scene shifted back to the inside of Haben Castle, the focus returned to Raon and Dorian's room. Raiden's sudden entrance was dramatic, his face etched with concern. "We were ordered to eliminate the ice trolls," he exclaimed, his voice urgent. Dorian's frustration boiled over as he exclaimed, "Already? Our first patrol mission just ended yesterday." He threw up his hands in exasperation, his face incredulous. Raiden's expression was sympathetic, but his tone was helpless. "I know it's tiring to get a mission right after finishing the previous one, but it's the higher-ups' decision. I can't do anything about it." He spread his hands in a gesture of resignation, his eyes conveying understanding, but also a sense of inevitability. Dorian's query hung in the air, "Why?" Raiden's initial silence was palpable, as if he was collecting his thoughts before speaking. The weight of his words was evident as he began to recount the events that had transpired earlier. One of the officers had approached the commander, bearing grave news. "Patrol Team 2 has made a disturbing discovery," the officer reported. "They've found a group of ice trolls congregating near underground pit number 4. The commander's expression turned grave as the officer continued, "There are 13 of them, but we suspect there may be more." The officer's words were laced with a sense of urgency, and his conclusion was straightforward. "I think we better hit them first." Commander Glenn's voice carried a sense of concern as he spoke. "Pit number 4 isn't that far off from number 5. Vice Commander Tarian nodded in agreement, his expression thoughtful. "Yes, so we were thinking that we will take care of the trolls first before investigating the shark moles that appeared near underground pit number 5. Commander Glenn's brow furrowed as he paused, collecting his thoughts before speaking. "I don't have a good feeling about this," he said, his voice laced with a hint of unease. The weight of his words was evident, and the room fell silent as he considered the risks involved. Turning to Vice Commander Tarian, Commander Glenn issued a directive. "You go with them, Vice Commander." As a sign of respect, Vice Commander Tarion raised his hand towards his chest, his eyes locked on Commander Glenn. "Yes, sir," he replied, his voice firm and resolute. Commander Glenn's finger traced a path on the map, his eyes locked on the terrain as he issued his orders. "Take the commanding team and the Wolves mercenaries, kill the trolls and investigate the regions around the Northern Sea before coming back." His voice was firm, the mission parameters clear, just as he was about to assign a team for patrol duties. Vice Commander Tarion interjected, "I'll take Patrol Team 3. Commander Glenn's surprise was evident in his raised eyebrow. "Why?" he asked, curiosity getting the better of him. Vice Commander Tarion's explanation was straightforward. "We received reports that Raon took care of all the shark moles on his own in his first mission." Vice Commander Tarion's words poured out in a smooth, persuasive flow. "I heard that he did it in a short amount of time with no injuries." His tone conveyed admiration for Raon's impressive feat. "If that's true, he should come in handy in this mission." A hint of personal interest crept into Tarion's voice as he continued, "Plus, I would love to witness such skills firsthand." Raiden's thoughts swirled as he processed the conversation, his mind racing with the implications. "All right," he thought to himself, "he said that he is willing to fight on any kind of battlefield, so take him." The words echoed in his mind, and he felt a sense of trepidation wash over him. As Raiden turned to leave, he tossed a parting remark over his shoulder, "Anyway, get ready and sleep early tonight." The sudden mention of preparation and rest caught Dorian and Raon off guard, and they exchanged a surprised glance, their eyes locking onto Raiden in unison. As Raiden closed the door behind him, Raon and Dorian stood frozen, their eyes fixed on the door in shock. Dorian's voice pierced the air, a panicked scream that echoed through the dorm. We're done for. We just returned from our first mission." His words tumbled out in a frantic rush. "I didn't expect to be a part of the next mission without any rest." The fear and exhaustion etched on Dorian's face were unmistakable, his eyes wide with alarm. Dorian's face contorted in distress, tears welling up in his eyes as he turned to Raon, his voice cracked with emotion. "Young master, do you think it's true that swords don't even work on ice trolls?" Raon's response was starkly different, his voice calm and matter-of-fact. "Yeah," he replied, the single word dropping like a stone into a still pond, sending ripples of unease through the air. Raon's explanation was delivered in a calm, detached tone, but the implications were dire. Ice trolls have thick and sturdy leather because they live in such cold climates. He spoke as if reciting facts, but the weight of his words was evident. "I heard it's hard to slay them unless you imbue your sword with aura." Raon's words continued to paint a grim picture. "On top of that, ice trolls have great regenerative skills like all other trolls." Dorian's fear reached a boiling point, and he swiftly burrowed under the blanket, his body shaking with terror, his voice muffled by the blanket. He stammered out a despairing phrase, "We're done for. I'm definitely gonna die during this mission. I better write my will." The blanket seemed to offer little comfort, as Dorian's words were laced with a sense of hopelessness and impending doom. Raon's calm demeanor was a steady presence in the midst of Dorian's turmoil. "Don't be so scared, Dorian," he said, his voice soothing. "If you use your speed, you should be able to defeat a troll." The words were meant to reassure, but Dorian's response was immediate and honest. Dorian's voice, still shaking slightly, spoke up from under the blanket. "Even if you say that, I'm still scared." Raon's pause was brief, but it seemed to stretch out the anticipation. "Well, there is another method," he said, his voice calm and measured. Dorian's curiosity got the better of him, and he poked his head out from under the blanket, his eyes locking onto Raon's. "What?" he asked, his voice laced with a mix of trepidation and hope. Raon's grip on his sword tightened, and a hint of a smile played on his lips. "Yeah, a way to not be scared in front of an ice troll," he said, his voice laced with a subtle amusement. "If you duel me, an ice troll will look just like any other monster." Raon's face twisted into a crude expression as he raised his sword, his voice gruff. "Let's go train right now." The words were met with a dramatic response from Dorian. Now that I think about it, ice trolls are actually weaklings." "Good night," Dorian exclaimed, his voice laced with panic and relief. He quickly retreated under the blanket, leaving Raon to shake his head in amusement. "What a weird guy," Wrath thought to himself, a mixture of exasperation and admiration on his face. The sun cast its morning light upon the gathering of members in front of Haben Castle's imposing main gates. Vice Commander Tarion stood before them, his voice firm and authoritative as he began the routine of the day. "Now, it's time to take attendance." As Taryn's voice droned on, taking attendance, Raon turned to Dorian with a concerned expression. "Are you all right, Dorian?" he asked, his voice low. Dorian, standing beside Raon, looked like a zombie, his eyes glazed over and his face pale. "Yeah, I think anything is better than a duel with you," he mumbled, his voice barely above a whisper. Raon's expression softened slightly, and he replied, "I'm glad." The member's voice cut through the murmur of the gathering, and he chimed in with a friendly tone. "Hello, you're Raon, right?" The question was directed at Raon, and the member's gaze was fixed on him, a hint of curiosity in their eyes. Beto's stride was confident as he walked towards Raon and Dorian, a warm smile on his face. "I'm Beto, the captain of the Wolves Mercenaries," he said, extending a hand in greeting. "It's nice to meet you." His eyes sparkled with a mix of admiration and challenge as he added, "My mercenaries always say that they would love to duel you." Beto's words flowed smoothly as he continued, "I didn't know you were a part of the patrol team." His hand remained extended, awaiting Raon's handshake. Raon took Beto's hand, his grip firm as he replied, "It's nice to meet you as well." The handshake was brief, and as they parted ways, Beto smiled and said, "I'm looking forward to working with you today." His tone conveyed a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose. Raon nodded slightly, his expression mirroring Beto's friendly demeanor. "Likewise," he replied, his voice courteous and professional. Beto raised his hand and waved in a friendly gesture, his smile still in place. "Now, allow me to excuse myself," he said. "I have to check on my mercenaries. I only wanted to introduce myself." With that, he nodded at Raon and Dorian, then turned to leave, his movements relaxed and confident. As Beto walked away, Rath's voice emerged, low and menacing. "I don't like him, take his eyes out." The words were chilling, and Raon's head snapped towards Rath in surprise. "What?" Raon asked, his voice incredulous. Rath's gaze remained fixed on Beto's retreating figure. "You shouldn't trust people who have the eyes of a snake," he said, his tone dripping with malice. Rath's expression remained dark as he spoke. "In my experience, people that looked like him were usually backstabbers, like 8 times out of 10. His voice was laced with a hint of conviction, born from past encounters. Raon's eyebrow arched in surprise as he asked, "So you're 20% unsure?" Raon's gaze lingered on the direction where the man had gone, his thoughts turning inward. "But I'll keep that in mind," he thought to himself. "I do feel a bit off when I look into his eyes. I better keep an eye on him while we're here." A voice interrupts his thoughts, saying, "Mister." Raon's eyes snap open, and he turns to face the speaker, his expression neutral. Yua's face lit up with a bright smile as she carried the food that the soldiers had ordered. "Sorry I'm a bit late," she exclaimed, her voice filled with a cheerful tone. "I prepared all the food you ordered." She proudly presented the dishes, her eyes sparkling with joy. As she approached, one of the soldiers' faces lit up with a warm smile. "Oh, Yua," he exclaimed, his voice filled with delight. "How are you getting cuter every time we see you?" he asked, his voice filled with amusement. "You're getting better at cooking, too." Yua's face grew even redder as the soldier playfully ruffled her hair. Another soldier chimed in, patting Yua's head gently. "You're the pride of Haben Castle," he exclaimed, his voice filled with warmth. As Raon watched the scene unfold, he couldn't help but think to himself, "Yua, was it? She's loved by the soldiers." He observed the way the soldiers interacted with Yua, their faces filled with warmth and affection. "I'm guessing she's like a mascot of Haben Castle," he thought, a hint of a smile on his face. As Raon turned to leave, he was suddenly stopped in his tracks by Yua's voice calling out, "Oh, young Master Raon." Yua held out a pouch, a warm smile on her face as she said, "This is beef jerky that my grandfather and I made. It's really good, so please take it." Raon's eyes widened in surprise as he took in the offering, and he asked, "Why are you giving me this?" Yua's face lit up with excitement as she explained, "Because it's your first expedition. Please buy from us next time." Raon's expression softened, and he replied, "Thanks, I'm sure it's good," as he gently patted Yua's head. Yua's eyes sparkled with hope, and she said, "If you appreciate it, then please buy from us later." The sudden interruption by Vice Commander Tyrion's stern voice cut through the light-hearted moment between Raon and Yua. "Get in line if you're all ready. We're gonna brief you for a bit before we leave." The atmosphere shifted from casual to formal, and Raon's expression turned serious as he fell into line, his eyes fixed on Vice Commander Tyrion. Tyrion's voice was firm and clear as he outlined the mission objectives. "We have 2 objectives," he began. "One is to take down the ice trolls, and the other is to patrol the areas between Mount Sterling and the Northern Sea." He paused for emphasis, his gaze sweeping across the soldiers. "Our goal is to make sure no one is hurt." Rath's expression remained stoic, his eyes fixed intently on Vice Commander Tyrion as he listened to the mission briefing. Raon's question broke the silence, and Rath's gaze shifted to Raon. "What? You're looking really serious right now," Raon said, his tone light-hearted. Rath's gaze drifted towards the mountains, his eyes narrowing slightly as he focused on the landscape. His thoughts turned inward, and he sensed a subtle energy emanating from the mountain, that energy coming off the mountain. It's not strong, but I can feel it, he thought to himself. Rath's thoughts were interrupted by his own speculation, and he wondered, could it be him? His gaze turned serious, and his expression became more intense. When Raon asked him about his serious look, Rath's response was curt, "It's nothing." His tone was dismissive, and he didn't elaborate further, leaving Raon to wonder what was on his mind. As Tyrion gave the order to move out, the group began their journey towards their destination. Raon fell into step alongside the others, but his eyes kept drifting towards Rath, his gaze filled with suspicion. Raon's expression was questioning, and he seemed to be trying to read Rath's thoughts, wondering what was behind Rath's unusual behavior. Friends, the chapter ends here. To everyone watching, thank you for joining us on this adventure. If you're eager to find out what happens next, please do comment below, asking for more chapters. Don't forget to show your support by liking and subscribing. Until next time, stay tuned.